Hi guys, my name is Nicolette Mashile. I'm also known as the Financial Bunny. Welcome to the Financial Bunny TV. Today we're talking all things dividends, getting an understanding of what are dividends and how do they actually work. And if you wanted to create a strategy to be able to buy or invest in the stock market, could you use a dividend strategy? Now remember that none of my videos constitute as financial advice. If you are looking for financial advice, please speak to somebody that is certified and registered with the FSCA. So what are dividends? Basically, dividends for me is like you are being incentivized, you are being paid because you hold a certain stock. So let's take it a couple of steps back, right? When you're a shareholder or when you invest in the stock market, you could potentially look at an individual share. So let's use Capitec, for instance. I love the Capitec share, right? So let's say you buy a Capitec share. You become a shareholder within the Capitec company. Now, because you're a shareholder, it means that you are also entitled to the successes, but you're also going to be part of the losses of Capitec. So if Capitec is to make profits, that means that those profits are also yours, but equivalent to your shareholding. So it's not like if Capitec makes a huge profit, now you can go to Stellenbosch and have a party with those boys. No, you cannot. Your success and your profit is equivalent to how much shareholding do you have at Capitec. And you could sometimes get paid out based on the holding that you have at Capitec Bank. So that's basically what a dividend is. And it's very important to note that not all stocks pay dividends. In actual fact, there are many companies that choose to rather take the profits and reinvest them back into the business strategy, whether it's innovation, whether it's expansion, whether it is R&D, whether it is, all sorts of things that may potentially build the business instead of actually paying dividends to their shareholders. And it's also important, again, to also understand that it's not just a willy-nilly decision that somebody makes. You go to an AGM and the board of directors present a reasoning as to why they feel that dividends can be paid out. And often, sometimes, there is a voting that may take place. Sometimes there is no voting and that decision is made by the board of directors, whether or not a company is going to be paying out any type of dividends. Now, it's important again to remember that I had mentioned, Guti, how then do you use this to be able to pick the types of stock that you can invest in on the stock market? So you can look at the various stock markets and you can say, okay, of the companies that are listed, for instance, on the JSE, which are known traditionally to pay out dividends? And you could actually create your own portfolio by selecting those companies. Alternatively, there are ETFs that are created in that manner, where the companies that are part of that ETF are companies that do pay dividends. One of the most important things, and I always tell people, is that even if you do use the dividend a strategy or approach to be able to pick your stocks, it is also very important for you to remember that you want to reinvest those dividend payouts back into your actual investment strategy. So you may say, you know what, with my dividend payout, what I really want to do is to take this amount of money and reallocate it to a different strategy. So you could say, with the dividend payout, I'm going to take those amounts of money, as much as they accumulate, and I'm going to pay or buy small cap companies, maybe on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange or on another stock exchange. Or you could say reinvest back into the same strategy, and I'm now going to buy, if you maybe you had individual shares, you're going to use that to buy maybe an ETF or a unit trust that has a basis of stock that pays out dividends. How do you identify dividend-paying companies? You can, one, do a very simple Google search and say, which are South Africa's dividend-paying companies? And you'll find a list of those dividend-paying companies. Or you could actually go and read the financial statements of many of these companies. You can select 10 of the companies that you actually like, read up and see what has been their dividend paying out trend in the last 5-10 years. Remember that you may enter into the stock market at a time where a company may make a decision, that could be their first year making the decision not to actually pay out dividends. do not panic. You can simply just replace that specific stock in your allocation with another stock that actually pays out dividends. Or you could actually help yourself by not doing all of that big work, because there are asset managers and fund managers that do this, where they know how to balance out a unit trust or an ETF with those dividend paying stocks, so that you don't have to do the big job. So if one of the dividend companies that is included in perhaps the DV, I don't know what their name is, but I know they have like this DV name attached to them. The DV what. You could, I'm actually seeing the DV plus 500 somewhere in my head. You know, you could potentially, you don't have to worry about that one stock being replaced, because it will automatically be replaced by the guys that are actually managing the fund. So it's important for you to also understand that some of the work that some of us really want to do individually on our own is already done. And the great thing about an ETF, which is an exchange traded fund, remember we spoke about what an exchange traded fund is. Basically, it's like a salad that is made up of different types of ingredients. These ingredients will represent a different stock within the listed companies, right? Now, they are selected based on a premise, or what's the word? A grouping, rather. So that's why with the Satrix Top 40, it's the top 40 performing companies. You may find that you have an ETF of the mining industry, where it's mining companies, or you can find an ETF of dividend-paying stocks, where they track dividend-paying stocks. But the beauty of it versus the unit trust is that that ETF behaves like an individual stock. So throughout the day, it will fluctuate in terms of its pricing, and you can enter the market at any point. Whereas with the unit trust, there is an opening and a closing price that you may need to pay at the beginning of the day and at the end of the day, right? So with an ETF, you get that benefit, but it's also an actively managed fund. So the fund manager is consistently looking at that and trying to make sure that it performs at its best possible ability. I'm hoping that has helped you in some way to be able to start crafting how you are going to pick the stocks if you want to invest in the stock market. I'll see you guys on the next one.